Alright, so we got a little tuning update here on the go-kart. I've been tweaking things for the past couple of weeks and I haven't really kept you guys updated, but I apologize. But I didn't leave you too far behind. As you can see, the exhaust has been removed, some covers have been removed, the seat is gone, the chain is gone, and you can see my rear sprocket idler has actually been replaced with a solid piece of box steel. And the reason I've done that is because upon inspecting my sprocket tensioner thing, I realized that there was being overused, too much torque with the spring and the chain and everything, so I decided to go to a solid mount. And this one actually started to crack. I don't know if you can see that right there below my index finger. So we're getting rid of this guy. And we've installed this piece of box tube steel. What I'm going to do here is actually mount the original sprocket with a longer bolt right straight through this piece of box steel. It's actually going to be on this side. And it's just going to sit there stationary. We're going to use the engine to slide back and forth to tighten and loosen the chain. However, upon doing this big conversion, I realized while stringing up the new piece of chain with the tensioner and everything in place that something was seriously wrong. As it turns out, my rear axle is warped. It's warped so much that it would make it nearly impossible to get an even amount of tension on the chain while the sprocket is spinning. So I'm actually calling it quits with the BMI Kart's axles. Here's my solution. On your right here is a BMI Kart's axle. This is your standard 1" by 36" axle with a 1/4" keyway. This is a premium Deluxe Flexpruf steel axle from Manufacturer Supply, and it's also 1" with 1/4" keyway. And these actually come with a stepped end. I got the short ends, so I have to put washers on to use my hubs, and they've also got a hole drilled in them so you can put a steel cable, like a safety cable or a cotter pin or something of that nature. Now these hardened steel axles are probably twice as much money as the BMI Kart's axles, but I've had nothing but problems with these BMI Kart axles not being straight or bending really easily or the threads just stripping out, so I'm going to try something else. We're going to try this Deluxe Flexpruf axle, which is made of a harder steel, and it's actually coated in chrome so it won't rust, which is also a pleasing attribute to have in your rear axle. So I'm going to go ahead and strip this rear axle off the go-kart. It's going to take me a little while, but you guys just get to watch me do it really quickly because that's the magic of video. And once I get this thing all ripped up out of place, we can start installing our new Deluxe Flexpruf steel axle. So there she blows. This is the axle that just came off, and this is actually a 1/4 cut keyway. This one's cut 1/4 of the way down, and you flip the axle and it's cut 3/4 of the other way. And they do that for balance. This was my first BMI Kart's axle. This one's keyway is cut top to bottom, one side, so supposedly it's a lot less balanced. This is the one that stripped on me. This is the Deluxe Flexpruf axle. I'll link right here where you can get this guy from Manufacturer Supply, or you can look in the description. But like I said, this one was about $50, and it's got keyways cut halfway, one on one half, and then you flip it, and this one picks up on the other half for balance. So far it looks really, really straight, and I am very pleased with it. So now I have to begin the dreaded process of putting everything back together I just took apart, so that kind of sucks. But I tell you, before I'm going to do that, I'm really hungry, so I'm going to make myself a little bit of garage lunch. Now this is what you call a pie iron. This thing, you can pick them up at most hunting and camping stores or most hardware stores, and they open up like this, as you can see. And the idea here is you take a good bed of coals and you take a sandwich and you put them inside this pie iron and you clamp it shut and you stick it on your hot bed of coals. And you leave it in there for a little while and then flip it over and then check it often. I mean, these things only take a few minutes to cook. It's amazing. You take it out of your pie iron and boom, you've got yourself a hot, steamy panini in your garage. And once your sandwich is all done, go in the house and grab yourself a beer, some chips, and you've got what I like to call the Shop Combo Plus. So now that lunch is down the hatch, I've gotten back to work here on the axle shaft, and you can see I've gotten the brakes into place, and I've gotten some locking rings around some things, and the sprocket that's not totally in place because I still need to line it up with the chain and everything, but locking rings and keyways have been installed, and I'm getting ready to install the hubs. And one thing I wanted to show you guys is a lot of times I find that metric washers fit better against standard bolts than standard washers. And here's a perfect example. This is a 3/4" stub shaft on the end of this axle. It steps down from 1" to 3/4". So I need a washer here to fit my hub. So I went to the store and I found that actually these 18mm washers, you can see there's almost no slack in there. Now when I switch out to a 3/4 inch washer, which looks much different. You see how much more slack is there? This is the washer that's supposed to go on this shaft, 3/4 inch. Personally, I don't really like that, so we're going with the 18mm. So the axle shaft is in. I tell you, I really like these smaller bolts on the ends. It's a 3/4 inch shaft, so the bolts are 1 1/16, which I actually have a socket wrench for, as opposed to these ones that I got from BMI, which I don't even know what size they are because I don't have anything that's even remotely that size, so I use a gigantic adjustable wrench, as you guys have seen in the past. But yeah, I'm happy with this axle setup so far. It seems to spin nice and true, and it's shiny, and it doesn't look like it's going to rust, so that's a bonus. So I got the tires on, and I've got the chain kind of in place, and I've also got my sprocket bolted down, and you can now see my idler sprocket doing its thing. Pretty simple setup, a lot more simple than the spring-loaded one before. Hopefully I can adjust a little bit of the slack out of this. But I found a spot for my caps that went to the ends of the axles. I figured I wouldn't waste those, so I put them over my hardware there that holds the nut guard in place. Not that it needs it because it's all stainless. Every piece of hardware on this go-kart is stainless steel, which was probably half the cost of the build. But you can see this axle is just blinging, and I haven't even shined the thing yet. That's for my greasy hands being all over it. I have done nothing to it. So I'm pretty happy. Still got some things to reassemble, but we're getting there. So I actually changed my mind and I put those little red caps on the ends of the axles because they were actually protruding out a little ways. So I figured I'd protect them. But you know me, always changing my mind. But I got the seat on, bolted down, thinking about working on this exhaust here. And I was just taking a look at it, and I noticed that I could actually probably port this a little bit. You can see the carbon buildup right there, where I'm actually probably losing a little bit of velocity and maybe even creating a little bit of a turbulence as the exhaust exits the combustion chamber. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit with the die grinder, or Dremel tool actually. Something else I'd like to actually point out about the exhaust is the paint on it has held up incredibly well. There's been no fading or chipping or burning of the paint at all. And this is the paint I actually used on it, was the Rust-Oleum Specialty High Heat. It's a protective enamel. It's for grills, wood stoves and stuff. Resists up to 1200. I think that's only momentary, but these things really don't get much hotter than that. But yeah, it's held up really good. I know a lot of people were skeptical about this paint working, but it has worked incredibly well. Alright, exhaust is on there. So is my heat shield. It's all bolted down. I still have the covers off because I want to see how this thing works. So we're going to fire it up. Try to fire it up. Doesn't have much gas in it. And we'll just see how everything clears out real quick and then put my guards back in place. Alright, let's hope this just starts right up because I haven't run it in a while. Come on, baby. I don't know, you guys think I need to tighten that up a little bit? Looks like it might have loosened up now that I ran it a little bit. Well, let me know what you guys think about that. I'll tell you what I think. I think this thing has a lot less rolling resistance, so hopefully, well, you know, hopefully it's faster, as always. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I tweaked the timing a little bit more. I turned it back up to 8 degrees advanced, so now I'm at 28 degrees. So yeah, we're gonna tweak a couple of more things, nothing really major, and we're going to take this thing out for another ride once the snow melts, which could be a while because it's the middle of February. So stay tuned for the next updates, you guys, and let me know what you think, any suggestions, and I will see you later.